Hi, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Nicole. I am delighted today to have as my guest Lolita Milena. She's a paraplegic actor and author born in Siberia and immigrated to the U.S. in 2002. You're going to love hearing her story. She has an amazing one. She's here to inspire us, no doubt. Thank you for being my guest today.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're so very young, but you have quite a story to tell. So you came to the U.S. in 2002. Walk me through your life.
Well, I was born in a barn in Siberia, Russia, and almost immediately I was placed into their version of foster care, orphanage style situation. And a foster family from the United States had brought me and another child to the United States with the intent to adopt, which was their little loophole. Around 6 to 8 months after that, through an act of child abuse from the foster father, I was left permanently paralyzed from my waist down. And immediately after that, I was transferred to my now current family, and I gained 8 sisters and a brother from that. So I went from a very small, unfortunate situation to a very big family with a lot of opportunity and different walks of life to help educate me on the more niche sides to living life and how to go about it.
So you took a very tragic event in your life and you've turned it into a positive. Tell me how your journey of acting and writing and being involved in commercials all came about.
Again, being in a really large family, we bonded over so many different things. My father and I bonded over novels, music, musicals. My mother and I bonded over old time films like The Weapon, John Wayne films, Clint Eastwood movies. So when it came to me falling in love with the art of telling a story or creating a story, I would sit my parents down and tell them little short stories I knew before I knew how to write. I was telling them and performing for them. So I got my first role as Clara's little sister in the Nutcracker Ballet with the Ohio Ballet Theater. And I think that was what opened my eyes to really loving performing, because my sisters would tease me and say, you're going to get this thing called stage fright because so many people in the audience and it's so big. So I was sitting there in this 1800s wheelchair, just thinking, it's gonna hit me. I'm gonna get this thing called stage fright eventually. I went through the entire show and sat there and went, oh, well, that never happened with me. That was what really opened my eyes to just loving the art. And I had this passion for it. And I think that's kind of what kicked it all off for me.
So obviously your, what some would call a disability, never even got in your way to your thoughts of these are my goals and dreams and what I want to achieve. How did you get the mindset of that to be able to say, I'm not going to let this stop me. I'm going to let this be something that pushes me forward into greatness?
I think it's a mixture of two things. One is I had other sisters who had disabilities. I have a sister who was born deaf. I have a sister who is also paralyzed. I have sisters who have more so mental disabilities. And so it's just that we all grew up with it, and it's not so much we empowered one another. It was more so we just didn't care. So I also cannot mourn something I don't remember. I don't remember what it was like before the wheelchair. So when it came to people saying, how are you so inspiring? It's more so just, this was just my life. And it may be inspiring to those who have never experienced it, but for me, it's just another Friday.
Well, that makes perfect sense. That totally makes perfect sense. And I'm sure you have such love and being grateful to the family that adopted you after the accident, because they really changed the trajectory of your life.
Oh, absolutely, they did.
Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on that? It seems like they gave you wonderful opportunities.
I'm very grateful, and it's because my father was a member of Mensa. He was a genius man, and so he saw that I had a love for history, sciences, the arts, and he kind of latched onto that with me. So that was our main form of bonding. And I remember we would sneak out and look at the stars, and he'd teach me about how our solar system works and how our galaxy was born. My mother and I bonded over the arts and different actors and acting styles and movies. My sisters showed no mercy because they are sisters. No one got away with anything in
Yeah.
a house so many. So I got to learn so much from all of them. And I also learned a lot of resilience with them, whether that was for good or whether that was for trying to escape from a sister chasing you for stealing something. So I lived there was never a dull moment in my house, is what we say. There was never a dull down moment. And I think that gave me a lot of character.
Oh, I'm sure. That's a great explanation as to how your life evolved. Thank you for sharing that. So talk about how you found this love for the stage, so to speak. You started writing and then you started auditioning or taking acting lessons. So tell me about that step in your life.
By the time I knew how to write, my mother still has them saved, all of these just spiral journals from cover to cover, just little short stories, as soon as I knew how to write a sentence. So it was more so I just had all these thoughts crammed in my mind, and I said, I got to get these out somehow, even if they're bad, even if they're good. It doesn't matter to me. A story is a story for me. And after the ballet, my father started branching out and looking for local community theater to get me into because he saw that it was my favorite thing in the world. And so I started doing local community theater, and I've done around 17 to 19 theatrical productions since I was about 10 years old. So I learned a lot through that. I learned a lot through just private little lessons. I went to a creative arts academy for schooling. I went to film schooling. Anything I could get my hands on and learn, I did it.
Yeah. And so talk about the roles that you've gotten thus far.
It's kind of unfortunate because I live in the Midwest, and a lot of people who ran the community theater, they were far older generations. And while I got along with them great, they didn't know how to adapt parts to someone in a wheelchair and make it work. So I just simply said, I'll do it myself. So when it came to dance choreography, I adapted it myself. We had a choreographer. He showed me the routine, and I would go and re-choreograph it at like 14 years old so that I could still do it. So more so it was a lot of self-teaching, and it was a lot of self-discipline, and it was a lot of trying to not get super frustrated because they don't understand. I could only communicate so well with them. But it was a great learning curve for me, and especially today as an adult.
Oh, absolutely. And so today, as an adult, you've done let's see, roles on Lionsgate. You
Mhm.
had BuzzFeed's One Up. Tell me about that. And then, of course, you're this huge sensation on TikTok with almost 800,000 plus followers, I think. And then you have collaborations and brands that you've been a part of. So tell me about all those things.
With the Lionsgate film, I didn't know it was a Lionsgate film because I didn't read the entire email when I auditioned. I just saw One Up and I saw a wheelchair role, and I said, okay, this was probably my 20th audition at that point. I didn't even look at who was making it. And when I got the phone call, I was watching a movie with a friend, and he mentioned something about Lionsgate, my agent, and I kind of just sat back and went, what do you mean, like the Lionsgate or Lions space gate?
Yeah.
He goes, no, Lionsgate and BuzzFeed. You know who those companies are? I said, yeah, I know those companies. When did I audition for them?
Oh
So
gosh, that's so funny.
it was the happiest of accidents that was of my own doing for not reading the entire email. So now I read every very, very in depth.
Yeah.
That was so much fun. And I think for my first ever big production, it was the best case scenario because everyone was almost too accommodating. They were trying to accommodate for things that I didn't need accommodations for, but they were just so willing to be on top of it. And they said, this is as much of a learning curve for us as it is for you being here.
Right.
It was great. I think it was a great start to the industry for me. For the brand deals, I started out with cosplay and dance videos through TikTok. So a lot of brands were reaching out saying, well, we saw that you were like painting different colored eyes on your eyelids. Would you rather just have contacts and we just send them to you?
Yeah.
So it was them helping me out as much as me helping out their brands. It was more so, this poor girl, nothing. We need to help her.
I'm sure they didn't see it that way, but you're definitely helping them out. So that's awesome. And your other campaigns that you've had along the way and commercials and things like that, I believe Abercrombie and Fitch is one of them. Tell me about that.
I have a friend, he was part of their main branch campaign for the Face Your Fears back in 2017, 2018. And he reached out to me and said, they're looking for another paraplegic to have on their secondary campaign for the Face Your Fears with influencers. Would you like to? And I thought he was joking. I thought he was pulling my leg there for a second. But out to me, I got to read about their little campaign. I actually got a little gift from them that I now set out because I thought it was so cool. So that was, again, just another happy networking accident. I was so starstruck when they were posting about me, saying, this is Lolita and this is how she faces fierceness in her life. And I thought that was just so cool to me. I thought it was so intriguing.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. So where are you now? What are there any particular roles you've tried out for, auditioned for, or what are the next steps for you?
Well, right now we're all just kind of sitting here because with the strike and all of those unfortunate blocks falling. So right now we're all just kind of playing the long waiting game. But before that, I had some huge auditions because while I don't get as many auditions as my friends who are able-bodied, where they're getting 6 auditions a week, but they're all smaller roles, I'm getting maybe 4 auditions in a month or 2, but they're all big parts. So I had the great opportunity to audition for Universal Studios Wicked recently. I'm so happy with Marissa and her casting. I'm happy they picked a paraplegic because I did hear there were some people who were able-bodied and it was kind of confusing to me. I had auditions for some big Netflix projects, but everything's on hold. So I don't know where this is all going to go.
So what do you want for your future, though? What does your future look like to you? What are you striving for, your goals?
I want to be the first paraplegic to win an Oscar, or to be able to live to see the day that a friend of mine gets to wheel up on that stage. Because from my research, I have not found any paraplegic who has won an Oscar in the history of its existence. So I think that would be a huge milestone for me.
Be wonderful. I'm gonna speak that into the universe for you, because I would love to see that happen for you too. And talk a little bit about how you hope that by you achieving your goals and dreams, you trying to reach for the stars, so to speak, that you hope that inspires other young men, women who are may or even may not have disabilities to do the same.
Well, I just had gotten back from a convention. My friend, her name's Chelsea Hill. She's a paraplegic and she owns a dance company called the Rolettes. And I was invited, and it was just a huge convention for women, people in wheelchairs, and just coming together and seeing people's different strides in life. And I remember just seeing so many little girls just zoom past me in these wheelchairs. And some of them were as young as 5, 6 years old. And seeing that took me back to when I was little, and just seeing them live life to their fullest there. And a lot of them want to be actors or dancers. So just sitting there and talking with them, because they never met someone who was an adult and had lived their life as a 5, 6, 7-year-old. So they had so many questions for me, and it warmed my heart. And I remember just kind of wheeling to the elevator, trying not to cry, because I only had my sister growing up in a wheelchair. I didn't have anyone else. I was the only paralyzed child in my school, in my town. So seeing them ask these questions and say that they want to be like me growing up, it makes my goals all the more important to reach. If not for me, for them to see that it's possible to get this far, now I can go further. Even if I'm not the one to make it, I at least pave that path for them, or someone like me has.
Absolutely. That's beautifully said. Thank you so much for sharing that. So what's the best way for people to find you?
TikTok is my primary, Instagram, Patreon, and YouTube. It's all Lolita Milena. I tried to make it as easy as possible. But those are my main places for you to drop in, chat.
Well, you have a beautiful name, Lolita. I love that. So as we close, any final thoughts that you'd like to share with my audience?
I just want to say thank you so much for having me, and I hope I didn't ramble too much, but I do hope that this could have been just a good little peek into a life that not many people know exists and happens every single day.
Absolutely. The best is yet to come for you. I can see it. I know it. Yes. Thank you so much for being my guest today. I really appreciate it. And that will do it for this edition of Conversations with Nicole. Until I see you again, I hope you have a great day.